Wow. The sound stage on this thing, that is impressive. The time is now 6 days ago, and I am about to get my first hands-on with a production unit of the Valve Steamdeck. Now, there's gonna be an LTT video that we're gonna be working on over the next week or so where we get into more details, performance, thermals, anything else that we're allowed to tell you at this point. We can't get too deep into the software because that's not final yet. So this video is gonna be focused on the unboxing experience, the specs, and just first impressions of this potentially revolutionary gaming handheld. So we got a bunch of different languages telling you places that you can play with it, I think. Subway, Ferris wheel, toilet. They know their audience, don't they, over there at Valve. Okay, so packaging. We've got a nice little guide. So you press this button to bring up this menu, press this button to bring up this menu. Really impressed with the packaging so far. I was gonna talk about this in a little bit more detail later, but we actually considered doing a carrying case for the Steam Deck as like an LTT store item. And then we found out that Valve was making their own, and I kind of went, well, hey, if it's not any good, then maybe that's still something we can explore. But unfortunately, it seems to be kind of awesome. So I've got a nice little elastic strap there if you want to strap it onto something. We've got this little pouch that you can kind of stash in there if you're into that sort of thing. Carrying handle. Man, it seems, ooh, it's in there, isn't it? Well, it's probably fine. It's pretty armored. Hold on, we'll get to that in a second though. First, let's have a look at our power adapter. Might have preferred to see just a Type-C female jack on it so that this cable can be replaced with a longer one if I really want, but it's a reasonable length. My one concern is that the Steam Deck's only charging port is at the top. So if you have this plugged in and the outlet's not right next to you, it could actually be a bit of a reach issue to get up and around the device. I didn't mention this, but the astute among you probably figured this out. I'm planning to do size comparisons on Short Circuit here with all the other gaming handhelds that we have on hand. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. I opened it upside down. Trust me, I'm a professional. Okay. So, yeah. So that's fine. Yeah. That's fine, but the outlet has to be pretty much right next to you. In fact, can you see that thing? Mm-hmm. So you can see there's actually not a lot of slack on this. You would have gotten another 6 inches if it had been down here, but I'm sure Valve knew what they were doing when they put the power in on the top. If I had to guess, based on that, I actually used the top charging port on the Aya Neo more often than the bottom charging port. I'd say that's because of the weight of the device. And what I find is that after even like 10, 15 minutes, really I have to set it down on something. So I suspect it's gonna be quite a similar story for the Steam Deck, and the last thing you wanna be doing is setting it down on your cable, causing like a strain or like a breakage. So Steam Deck, 650 grams. Actually, I think it's lighter than the Aya Neo. I thought it was just due to the better ergonomics. Oh, never mind. Well, okay. It feels deceptively light because of the really nice hand grips back here. I'd say that they're designed for someone whose hands are maybe a touch bigger than mine, but that doesn't prevent me from comfortably reaching everything. ABXY, D-pad, joysticks, everything is easily within reach. The only thing is that if I'm playing a driving game and I want finer control over the joysticks up here, I need to shift my palm up just a little bit. Let's do some more size comparisons real quick here. So we've got the 1X Player Mini, 566, that's the lightest one of this class of device. And then if you're looking at something like the GPD XD, okay, so that's around 350, but that's Android based, that's not a full fat computer. And then for the big kahuna, the 1X Player, we're looking at around 782 grams. So it's on the heavier side of what's out there right now, but because of the ergonomics, I'd say it punches down? I don't know what the best way of wording that is. This video is brought to you by dbrand. You know those punksters that are always putting phones in cakes or dumping buckets of chocolate loonies on me? Well, this time the prank is on Nintendo because they're announcing Project Kill Switch. Haha, funny name, I get it. Which is a case for the Valve Steam Deck that aims to make it a little bit more, rugged, drop resistant. Oh, I get that one too. And also presumably a little bit more ergonomic. I haven't had a chance to actually get my hands on it yet because it looks like it's still in very early stages right now, but I gotta say the design looks freaking fantastic. Goes to show you, bad people can design good products. What? Hey, they started it. So you guys can check it out. We're gonna have it linked in the video description. It's kind of like their grip phone cases, so it looks like it has a really nice kind of padded interior to protect your Steam Deck, and then this outer layer that looks like, particularly if you have larger hands, it's gonna be super comfortable. So we're gonna have that linked down below. And it will actually be released someday, unlike Half-Life 3. Haha, Half-Life 3 joke, very, very current. Banana for scale, yes, thank you very much, Jono. LTTstore.com, you can get your very own banana for scale. Also this sweet indoor hoodie. Now, one of the things I'm realizing with all these devices spread out in front of me is there's a lot more to portability than just the weight. And I've put a lot of hours on the original Aya Neo and now the 2021 Pro since I did my first hands-on. And one of the things that is really great about it is how flat it is, how easily packable. But there are a couple of things that make the Steam Deck, even though its main body segment here is about the same thickness, the actual overall profile of the device is like double. And that's because of the grips, as well as the fact that the joysticks are more of a full-size controller class of joystick with like super long travel compared to pretty much all of these other devices. Like, look at the profile of these joysticks next to each other, Hoffman. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. So you can see there's like double the travel. So if you want finer control, this is gonna be it. But, you know, this I could conceivably put in my pocket, like when I'm walking around the mall. And I did that the other day, right? My son and I were going for haircuts, and I knew I was gonna have to wait for him for 20 minutes. So I just grabbed the Neo, chuck it in my pocket, we're walking around the mall. Steam Deck? I mean, yeah, maybe, but I wouldn't really recommend it. You're putting a lot of strain on that thumbstick. Fortunately, Valve's approach to right to repair so far has been exemplary, so I am expecting it to be very easy to get your hands on and replace these thumbsticks if you do accidentally screw them up. One of the other things that's really standing out to me before even turning it on is the anti-glare coating. For the preview, Valve set out the 512 gig version, which has, okay, well, it has some other extras. It has like a special keyboard theme or something like that, but the big one is this kind of etched glass anti-glare coating. You guys can kind of see how the reflection is compared to these other devices, which are mirror-like. See that? It's kind of hazy. So it's got a quad-core Zen 2 CPU, 8 threads total, 16 gigs of LPDDR5 memory. So that's running at 5,500 megatransfers per second. That's gonna help both with CPU performance and, more importantly, the onboard GPU. It's running RDNA 2 graphics instead of Vega-based graphics, which means that theoretically we are looking at significantly better GPU performance on this compared to everything else on this table. So on the top, you got pretty much an Xbox controller-like layout. So you got your D-pad, left thumbstick, you've got your start and select, whatever the modern names for that are on the Xbox controller. 2 microphones. I have very high expectations for both the microphone and speaker on this thing based on my experience with the Valve Index. For a company that doesn't make dedicated audio products, Valve seems to know a frickin' lot about audio. You got your ABXY, second thumbstick. We already saw what these buttons are supposed to do. So this one is your Steam button, which brings up your Steam library, Steam store, anything Steam settings. And then this one right here is gonna bring up your like your system overlay. I mean, I guess I don't need to get into too much detail about that right now because that's sort of software. Volume buttons, headphone jack, USB-C, so that's for charging or connecting to the dock, which we don't have, unfortunately. Power button, and then we've got shoulder buttons. Ooh, those feel pretty good, actually. I'd say that's a nice, respectable travel distance on those triggers. Then you've got L3 and R3 when you press in the analog sticks. By the way, these are capacitive, so they're touch sensitive on the top, which is pretty cool.
What? Really?
Yeah, I know, right? Then you've got L4, R4, L5, R5 on the back. Now, personally, I've never really daily driven a SCUF type controller with the back paddle. Actually, I do have an Elite controller. I've never really used them. But what I will say is they are super easy to access. You gotta kind of shift your grip on the device a little bit, so it's you kind of claw it a little bit more. But I'd say they're a really good balance of pressing force and like tactile response. Actually, all the buttons feel pretty darn good. I wouldn't mind if the ABXY were a little bit shorter travel. I do have a preference for that, but it's definitely better feeling than the Neo. With the Neo, I think the problem is just that they have the long travel and the small buttons. I feel like you gotta pick one. Oh, I guess I never really talked size comparison with the One X player. So you can see the profile is actually quite similar because the One X player also has a sculpted grip like the Steamdeck. Everyone's taken a very similar approach to cooling. It's almost like there's just a best way to do this. You got your intake at the back, exhaust out the top. It's the only way to get the heat into the unit without getting suffocated for sure, and away from the user. Here's the size comparison with the full-size One X player. That thing is such a chungus. Surprisingly though, it's a touch narrower. Full-sized One X player with the like almost 9-inch display. Oh, now's probably a good time to talk display specs. It's 1280 by 800, so that's 16 by 10 aspect ratio, 7 inches. It's very similar in terms of specs to the Aya Neo. It's rated for a typical brightness of only 400 compared to 500 nits, but if the black levels are anything to go by, I think once we actually get the game loaded up, here we go, it's gonna look significantly better. Compared to the One X player, it's not gonna be as sharp. So One X has decided to go for a 1440p class display. I believe it's 2560 by 1600s on the full-size One X player. And then this one, I believe, is 1920 by 1200. But the reality of it is that the processors in these things, they're not gonna be able to drive that kind of resolution anyway. So personally, I agree with Aya and Valve's decisions here. This feels like probably about 20 FPS right now. So let's see if there's anything we can do to fine tune that a little bit. Oh, wait, what the heck? Why is it running at non-native resolution? There we go, wow. That's gotta be a solid 30 FPS now. You know, it is amazing how good a modern game looks, even at low or medium details on a display this size. Like, it makes a huge difference to be running this class of hardware compared to, you know, what Nintendo's put in the Switch, which is basically like a 6-year-old phone processor. Let's fire up a game that I can run side by side and compare. Now, to go much deeper, I want to spend more time with it, and you're gonna have to tune into the full LTT video, but there are a couple of little things I want to try real quick here. First is the mouse. This pad is set up to control the mouse cursor, and it kind of vibrates actually here. Can you hear this?
Oh yeah.
Crazy, right? Ooh, it's momentum based. So you can kind of be like, woo, 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 and kind of flick it over and it'll kind of rumble. So it's kind of almost like it feels like a friction ball or something that you're rolling your finger over. So you can move it or you can throw it. And then this one you can use as a touchpad to, oh, I guess you could just use it as a D-pad if you want to. That seems to be how it's configured right now. One of the great things about the Steam controller was how highly configurable it was. You could use it to play just about anything from FPS to third person to racing to even like RTS games. And I believe Valve intends to continue that legacy here, because they certainly aren't continuing that legacy in the form of Steam controllers. Can we just take a moment to appreciate that Forza Horizon 5, a Microsoft game, is launching on Linux? Like, we're not talking software much today, like I said, but, Valve rates the 50 watt-hour battery for anywhere from 2 to 8 hours, depending on what you're doing, so it sounds like that's gonna end up quite similar to the 47 watt-hour battery in the Aya Neo, which gets just under 2 hours under the heaviest loads, and much more than that if you turn down the performance profile of the SoC or whatever else. What else is there to really say? It's got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all the connectivity that you'd expect. And we are now loaded into Forza Horizon 5 on a Linux-based machine. If I had to guess, I'd say this is somewhere in the neighborhood of, it's actually really hard to tell. That's interesting. See, my car looks great. That looks like 60 FPS locked. But then there's kind of this judder or stutter or something when I look at objects in the distance. Can you see that? How it's like
It's very subtle.
Here, let me show you this one for comparison. Man, it's hard to even show this one to you guys because the screen's so shiny by comparison. See how the towers and stuff are smoother?
Oh, there's more motion.
More motion, you say?
Like blur.
Nope, they are both set to exactly the same settings. You're looking for distant objects, whether they look smooth or whether they look juddery.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you know what you can see what I'm talking about on camera?
Yeah.
It's not final, and we have a lot more investigation to do over the next 6 days. Actually, let's talk acoustics. To my ear, which obviously is not very scientific, it sounds very similar to the Aya Neo in its 15 watt profile. And that would be at EXC fan mode, whatever that means. So that's kind of what I try to aim for an enjoyable gaming experience. Otherwise this thing gets loud in wild fan mode. And that's really impressive considering that that's at 15 watts, and this is a 25 watt chip running in auto mode right now. Wow. The sound stage on this thing?
It sounds so good.
Okay, that is impressive. And you guys aren't even getting the directionality. Like, an absolute toy by comparison. This makes noise. This has a sound system. And I think that pretty much wraps up the short circuit first impressions. Guys, head over to LTT for our full first impressions, thermals, benchmarks, all that kind of good stuff. And make sure you get subscribed.